Wow, 4 days, huh? 4 days until the election.
I know, right?
Can you believe it's almost here? It feels like this election's been going on forever.
Seriously, it's been a wild ride.
Well, today we are diving deep, deeper than the headlines, to really get a grip on where this presidential race stands. We've got some data. Remember, guys, this video is sponsored by One Browser. Don't miss out. One Browser is the must-have tool of 2024. Try it now. Link is in the description. Back to the video. Polling analysis to unpack.
Oh, yeah. Think of this as your own personal cheat sheet.
Yeah, to make sense of it all. So, first things first.
Okay.
What makes this election so historic, so unique?
Well, we've got a situation here. We've got a potential first female president going up against a former president who's trying to, do it again, get a second term, Donald Trump.
Absolutely. It's Kamala Harris versus Trump.
Exactly.
Harris jumped into the race in late July after, Biden decided not to run again. And things have been crazy ever since.
Yeah, pretty much from the moment she stepped in.
So let's look at the numbers, the polls. What's the national picture looking like right now?
Okay, so looking at the national polls, since Harris entered the race, she's actually maintained a lead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a small but a pretty consistent lead over Trump.
Interesting.
However, there's a twist.
Oh, there's always a twist.
In the last couple of weeks, things have gotten a little, tighter.
Oh, okay, so it's close.
Very close. It's anyone's game at this point.
So a close race,
Yeah.
edge to Harris for now. But, I always get tripped up with this because we always hear about these national polls. But I remember from past elections, the national polls don't necessarily mean a win.
Right.
It all boils down to that electoral college.
The Electoral College, yeah. It's a bit of a head scratcher for many people, but it's really essential to understand it.
Yeah, because it's not as simple as just whoever gets the most votes, from all the people wins. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's not just a simple popularity contest. Think of it like, a game where the goal isn't just to rack up the most points overall. You've got to win specific states to collect their electoral votes.
Like a strategy game.
Exactly. And each state gets a certain number of these votes based on its population. And to win the whole shebang, the presidency, a candidate needs to grab at least 270 of those electoral votes.
Wait.
Like collecting puzzle pieces.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Like collecting puzzle pieces to complete the picture. I like that.
Right.
Okay, so it's not enough to just win, like California or New York if they lose other states that have a lot of these electoral votes.
Exactly. You got it. And that is precisely why we always hear so much about these swing states.
Oh, the swing states, yes.
Yeah.
Those are always a big deal.
Big deal, because the vote is usually super close in these states, and they can totally swing the entire election.
One way or the other.
Yeah, it's like they're the tiebreakers,
Okay.
Both sides are fighting tooth and nail to win them over.
Okay, so which states are we talking about here, the swing states?
All right, so the data we're looking at, it highlights 7 key states: Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Got it.
These states are basically the VIPs of the election.
The VIPs, everyone's watching them.
Oh, yeah, all eyes are on them because they have a ton of power.
When it comes to picking the winner.
You got it.
Okay, swing states are key. Got it. So what's the situation in these swing states? Are they leaning towards Harris or Trump? What are we looking at?
Well, this is where it gets really, really interesting. You see the polling averages in these swing states. They're incredibly close.
Right.
It's really hard to say who's actually ahead at this point. Really a nail-biter.
So wait, does that mean the polls are just, kind of useless then? How do we make sense of any of this if it's all so close?
Polls, no. They're definitely useful. But we got to be careful how we read them, especially in a race this tight. You got to remember, polls are kind of like a snapshot. They capture the mood of the voters at a certain moment. And things can change, as we get closer to the election.
Oh, okay, so the numbers can shift. But how do we know if those shifts are really significant? Or if one candidate is actually, pulling ahead?
Okay, so that's where this margin of error thing comes in. Imagine you're trying to hit a bullseye with a dart, right?
Okay.
The margin of error is like that circle around the bullseye.
Okay.
The bigger the circle, the less precise your aim is, right?
Right.
So in polling, that margin of error is usually around 3 to 4 percentage points, meaning that the real level of support for a candidate, it could be higher or lower than what the polls actually say.
So a 3-point lead could actually be a tie, basically.
Yeah, or even a disadvantage, depending on that margin of error. Especially in those swing states where the race is already so close, that margin of error becomes like super important.
Okay, so polls are snapshots, not prophecies. I get it. So with these snapshots in mind, what trends are we seeing right now in those key swing states?
All right, let's see. Right now, the polls, they show Trump holding on to a small lead
Okay.
in 4 of those swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina.
Gotcha.
However, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, things are way tighter. Some polls even suggesting that those states could flip.
Flip. You mean like go from maybe supporting Trump to maybe supporting Harris?
Exactly. Those states are the ones that could decide the entire election.
Oh, so those are really, really important.
Huge. Remember, these swing state trends are always changing.
They are.
Oh, yeah. They can change big time as we get closer to Election Day, based on news, campaigns, whatever happens.
My head's spinning.
I know, right?
That's a lot. Maybe I should just ignore all this until Election Day and just show up to vote.
No, don't give up yet. Understanding all this actually makes things more interesting.
Does it?
Yeah, it's like watching a sports game when you actually know the rules and the strategies. Makes it way more exciting.
Okay, true.
Yeah.
But how do we know these polls are even giving us an accurate picture? Didn't they get things wrong before?
Yeah.
Especially with Trump.
Right.
You're right. Okay, back to the polls. So you mentioned they got some things wrong in the past. Like what happened? What went wrong?
Yeah, that's a really important point. In both 2016 and 2020, a lot of polls underestimated Trump's support.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and in 2020, it was actually the biggest polling error in 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big miss, and it definitely raised some questions about, how much we can trust these polls.
For sure. So why should we trust them now? Did something change?
Well, it's not about blindly trusting them. It's about understanding, how they work, what their limitations are. And after 2020, a lot of polling organizations, they actually made changes.
Oh,
to their methods, to address some of those inaccuracies.
Like what kind of changes? Did they get new calculators or something?
No, not exactly. Think of it more like they updated their playbooks.
Oh, okay.
They're constantly refining how they collect data and who they're talking to, you know.
Gotcha.
For example, they're trying harder to reach those hard-to-reach groups we talked about earlier.
Right.
The folks who might not have landlines, don't use the internet as much, those kinds of things.
Right. The hidden voters that could skew the results.
Yeah.
So are these changes, these playbook updates, are they working?
Well, the 2022 midterms, those gave us some clues. The polling in those races was way more accurate compared to the presidential elections.
Interesting.
It seemed like they were on the right track.
But wait a minute, Trump wasn't on the ballot in those midterms.
And you got it. That's the big question mark.
So maybe it's too early to celebrate.
Could be. Trump's presence, his ability to get certain groups of voters really fired up.
Yeah.
That might throw a wrench in things.
Well,
it's a level of unpredictability we didn't see in the midterms.
Okay, so we're still in uncharted territory. But let's step back for a second.
Okay.
Why does any of this matter?
Right.
Why should we care about polls, swing states, the Electoral College? What's the big deal?
Well, this election isn't just about who gets to live in the White House.
Right.
It's about the direction of the country, for the next 4 years. The next president will be appointing judges, shaping economic policy, healthcare, climate change. It all hangs in the balance.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's not just a popularity contest, like you said. It's real-life consequences for all of us.
You got it. And understanding how these elections work, it can help you make sense of the political landscape, the decisions being made, and how they might affect your own life.
Right.